Welcome back, everybody, to another fun-filled episode of Pop Goes the Zebra. I am Jeremy, alongside my co-host Jesse. Jesse, what's been up, man? How's life?
And things going good. Busy weekend.
Uh,
Three shows, 3 days. Time on the road. Always a good weekend.
Spend a little time on the road. Did you partake of the barrel?
No, I could not get the boys to go to the barrel.
The boys failed the barrel challenge.
Now we
Golly,
now we now we did Waffle House,
it is awful, but it was awful.
dude. So it was so great that the Waffle House was right across the street from our hotel. So we after the show went back, knocked back a few brewskis, and then waddled our way over to the Waffle House, and yeah, it's good
Oh
times.
man.
Good times.
Dude, Waffle House, man. I love a good breakfast. Breakfast might be my favorite meal of the day outside of the other two meals. Uh,
I like all
anyway,
meals.
yeah, as I was kind of trying to say without calling myself out for just being absolutely ridiculously
Well,
fat right now.
we've had one breakfast. How about a second
Second
breakfast?
breakfast, yes, yeah. I hate Lord of the Rings, but I do believe very much in second and possibly even third breakfast. Speaking of movies, that's the topic of today's episode. Nice little segue there.
Oh, hey, we've got movie sign, Mr. Science
Hey,
Theater.
there you go. Today we're going to talk about our favorite movies, what we like, why we like them, and I'm going to put a little twist on it. Not only are we going to talk about our favorite movies that usually fall under the category of pop culture, pop favorites. Everybody loves them. We're going to talk also about our guilty pleasure movies. We're not just gonna, we're not just gonna talk about the ones that we're not ashamed to admit we like. We're gonna talk about the ones that you should be ashamed to admit, but aren't. So off the bat, I'm gonna, and we're gonna have more than one. We're gonna talk about a few of them, kill some time, because that's what really all this is about. It's killing time.
I think we're looking at what, like, top five skis of
We'll see what
movies.
happens, but Five Skis is probably a good target plus a guilty pleasure or two. Off the bat, obviously there's Star Wars. I consider that one giant movie.
Yeah, you can kind of
a
like sum it
a
as a
six
whole.
episode movie with a couple of anthology movies thrown in there.
But we all know which movie is the best.
Empire.
Empire. Empire
Empire's
is the
the
best.
best.
Empire will
It
always
is
be the best.
technically and culturally the best movie. But obviously Star Wars. Um, let's go with one that doesn't necessarily fall into a series category here, because you could do Star Wars, you could do, I'm throwing example out there, Lethal Weapon. You could do,
Oh,
which I do love Lethal Weapon. That, oh man,
man.
I love it. I'm gonna go with like a singular movie that it's very recent, and so for it's easy to kind of off the top of your head, I would go with Joker. Because as
I
of,
haven't seen it yet.
oh, you've not seen Joker?
No, I can't get behind anything DC related.
So
I get it. I get it. Apparently it's really good on its own.
it's not,
But
and it is on its own because it's not really, as of this recording in 2021, not a part of anything. It was a literal one-off movie that doesn't even fall. It's not a Batman movie, and it's
yeah.
barely a DC movie. It has no comic book reference to it whatsoever. you
Yeah,
know
and
and that's, I would challenge you to just go watch this movie, if nothing else, to watch Joaquin Phoenix's performance, because it's up there in the annals of great
that's
performances.
the reason why I would want to watch it, cuz I genuinely enjoy his work.
Yeah, as a fan of the craft of acting, you need to watch Joaquin Phoenix's performance there. It's very good. So obviously there's that one. I love it. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. Obviously, I'm glad you told me you didn't watch it. But as far as cinematography goes, the choice of the way lines are delivered, his performance, and the way it changes throughout the movie, and the fact that, as I said, it's not Batman. And I even have kind of like this desire, like if they were to ever bring Batman into the mix, I want to see a Joker movie featuring Batman instead of the way it's always been, where it's a
The other way
Batman
around.
movie with
Yeah.
a Joker. I want to see a movie where Batman is perceived through the eyes of the Joker, because I feel like that would be one of those interesting little dives into the lore, or even as they did in this, kind of take a new spin on it. On the Joker, because this is a different Joker. It's got a lot of elements of all the Jokers, but it's its own Joker. I would like to see Batman through the eyes of this Joker. I don't want a Bruce Wayne Batman movie. We've had what, like 12 of those things now. God, not to mention, we've had a lot of Batman movies. Let's turn it on its ear, and let's do that. Let's perceive Batman through the eyes of the protagonist, or through the antagonist. I think that'd be fun.
That's a perspective in that genre that I would like to see. Like, see what the bad guy is really seeing. Like, see it from his point of view.
The age-old analogy is that the best villain is the one that doesn't see himself as the bad guy and thinks he's the good guy. Yeah. I don't think that necessarily applies to the Joker. I don't think the Joker is bogged down, no matter what Joker you're talking about, because there's been a lot of different Jokers. I don't think he's bogged down in something as trivial as right and wrong. Joker just
there's a lot of ambiguity in Joker.
You could get away with something like that, where Joker doesn't care if he's perceived as evil. He doesn't care if he's perceived as light. Joker just cares about one thing, and that's whatever task he's trying to accomplish at that particular moment. That is his moral code, is I got to get this done and cause as much trouble for Batman as possible. At least up to this point, that's kind of what we've seen in terms of that relationship. But Joker is obviously one of those movies. What about you? What's one of your favorite movies?
You should. I'm gonna let you take a guess, because you should already know.
Oh well, okay, obviously, but again, I was kind of hoping for something a little singular. But of course, you're gonna go with Ghostbusters.
Oh no!
Oh no!
No!
No! Oh,
no!
Okay, you've got my attention even more now.
Yeah,
what?
No,
we've
discussed Apollo 13. That is my.
I did not know that was your absolute favorite. I knew it was up there.
I own like several versions of it. I owned at one point probably 4 different VHSs because I wore the tape out when I was a kid.
Briefly, spoiler alert, we are doing an episode on Apollo 13. I cannot wait to do that one. Prep work has already been done for it. And pardon me. But continue.
Yeah, the thing with Apollo 13 is that it is the Hollywood depiction of real events. So a lot of things have been condensed, and little things are twisted around for the narrative to tell the story. But on the whole, the movie itself is just absolutely it. The acting's fantastic. They actually took them up in the Vomit Comet to film weightlessness scenes. It's what movie's ever done that?
True, and I'm like cringing as we're doing this. Like, I don't want to get into it too deep, because
that's the thing.
Like, I want to. Oh, we're like this is not.
So I'm talking in the context of the movie. I'm not talking about the actual mission itself.
I was gonna say, because when we do that episode, there is not going to be a time limit on that. We're going until we've told the story properly.
I'm speaking in the terms of the movie itself, where there are a lot of things that are creative license. Like there's I'll give you a quick little reference. There's one scene where the Saturn V is rolling out to the launch, or it's on the mobile crawler, and it says 3 days before launch. Well, that doesn't happen. The Saturn V is already out there months ahead of time. But it's that dramatic thing that they wanted. Okay, well, we've got the crawler. We want to get that in a really cool shot that we're actually using the crawler. So I get it. Dialogue choices, the fight that happens that never happened. They're professional astronauts. They're not gonna lose their cool.
And we will touch on that. That was actually one of the notes I took today. Is we're going to touch on that specific thing.
but it was the first time a movie had recorded in weightlessness. They actually built the command module and lunar module, put them inside the Vomit Comet, a KC-135, and filmed. So literally, Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton got to pretend to be flying an Apollo spacecraft because they're in weightlessness. It's amazing.
Bacon.
Yeah. I just
let's make it happen, NASA. Weightless bacon.
They have bacon in space.
Yeah,
Space
but
bacon.
Well, yeah, but does it keep you from gaining weight while you eat said bacon? Therein lies the challenge.
Well, that's why they work out every day.
It's true. It's true. So, yeah, but Apollo 13 is definitely one of those.
Apollo 13, the soundtrack to it. I have the CD in my old car, and the soundtrack it was your quintessential classic rock stuff. I think that's the first time I had ever heard Spirit in the Sky was in Apollo 13. So anytime I hear that song, everybody thinks of like Guardians of the Galaxy or
sir.
What's the other movie that it's in?
Oh, just it was one.
There was a John Travolta movie where he was an angel, and it's in that.
Michael.
Thank
Battle.
You. But no, that was the first time I heard Spirit in the Sky. So I, to this day, will always associate the Fred Hayes character spinning the cassette player with Spirit in the Sky tumbling in the background. And I just, man, to this, I can watch that movie and I love it every time I watch it because it's so good.
I suppose now is as good a time as any, since we're on the subject of space, to do kind of a bit of a guilty pleasure. I'm an Armageddon fan. Like, dude,
Armageddon was so awesome.
I loved it. I'll still watch it, but like at the same, you can pull that up in conversation. And it's amazing how many people will tell you, "Oh, I hate that movie. It's stupid. It sucks."
I loved it.
Like, wow, man. It's not
apparently
seriously.
Apparently, it was a thing at NASA with the new astronaut candidates that they made them watch that movie and write down everything that movie gets wrong.
I think we talked about that in an episode.
Yeah, I think it came up, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter how improbable or implausible. Just Bruce Willis riding a space shuttle onto a giant asteroid to blow it up with a nuke. Come on.
Yeah. We definitely talked about that.
It's a Michael Bay movie, so it's gotta be.
Oh boy, let's try
Michael Bay explosion, boom.
Let's tread lightly on that one because wow, Michael Bay.
Well, we're not going to talk about the Transformers movies.
There's only one Transformer movie, and the rest was just. Well, you can probably pick up the vibe from there, but I like. I thought it was good. I thought there was some really good acting in it, considering it was very clearly a summer popcorn movie. But anytime you've got Michael Clark Duncan on the screen, you automatically have my interest because
oh my God, the cast that they had for that movie,
dude.
Billy Bob Thornton, Owen Wilson, Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi in Armageddon was probably
he's like one of the best actors that doesn't get a lot of credit for being a great actor.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, that dude's been in a lot of really good movies, and people just kind of focus on the fact that he's got a unique face. So, and that's kind of where it dies, even though, like, dude, I mean, he's been in like everything ever, Scorsese wise, almost. And, obviously Reservoir Dogs comes to mind. But
that's also a pretty that's a solid movie. I've watched that.
I've seen it once or twice. It wasn't my favorite one of Scorsese's films, but like
it's a solid movie.
Scorsese. Wow, Tarantino. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Scorsese. Tarantino. Wow. Hey, it's been a long day. I did a lot of driving today. I think I did.
Trust me.
350, 400 miles.
I only got like 2 hours of sleep after I got out off the road, then went into work. So,
but I referenced Michael Clark Duncan. We're gonna get back on our favorite movies. I gotta talk about Green Mile.
I was gonna say I know where this is going.
I have to because you want to talk about a movie that has a lot of source material in it and isn't afraid to use it. As far as acting goes, I always say if you want to see why Tom Hanks is considered one of the best actors of all time, it's because he's such a great reactionary actor. And I'm not talking about over the top, like, like you'll see in wrestling. Oh, just the way he's acting without doing anything other than using his ears. And some of his scenes with Michael Kirk Duncan and the other actors in the movie, I point to that movie as why, because they've got a lot of story that they're trying to get across to you and each character, especially, and if you've read the book, the old trope there, right there, if you've read the book, you would definitely pick up that a lot of the actors were trying to convey the inner monologues that those characters had in the book, especially Paul Edgecombe, played by Tom Hanks. If you read that book, the trials and moral searching and spiritual searching that he does in that book, they just nail in that movie. And I will always point to that movie as one of the best, one of my favorites, just because I love the book.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of Tom Hanks movies referenced.
Yes, I'm going to try to steer clear of that because that's just so obvious. Because again,
we're going to
everybody knows.
We'll do a Tom Hanks appreciation night.
I'm okay with that too, dude. We could do like his top 5, top 10, and talk about what we love. Yeah, obviously, because Saving Private Ryan's going to be on there. Castaway is going to be higher on that list than you probably would think. But
man, I remember going to see Castaway in the movie theater, and this was like 2000, so it was 20 years ago.
Yep.
I just remember I thought it was so cool that Tom Hanks could carry himself in a scene by himself.
You're surprised because at this point he'd already started to prove that he was upper echelon of upper echelon.
Well, I was a kid.
Yeah,
I was a kid watching that movie.
Yeah.
As an adult, I have a greater appreciation for noticing like how he, again, it's how he reacts on screen. And Green Mile is
acting happens right here.
Yeah,
right here. That is where acting happens. And if you watch Tom Hanks, you'll see what I mean, because everything happens right here.
Yeah,
and Castaway, we're gonna have to do a Tom Hanks episode because so Braveheart's another one that I love.
I can get behind that. That's a damn good movie. I don't think some of these movies are great, but I haven't watched them in so long because I haven't taken the time to sit down and go back and watch them. But I remember watching Braveheart and just like, oh, this is so awesome. And I get to the end, I'm like, oh.
It's a moral. If those of you who have not seen it, Mel Gibson has a penchant for self-mutilation and violence, and he does not survive through the entirety of the film. But the reason I bring up Braveheart is the acting there again is good, but I want to talk about scoring because that was kind of my first kind of foray into understanding that the right scoring it's like a good referee and a bad referee. It can either make the moment or break the moment.
Yep.
I say that because I'll look at a movie like, and I'm probably going to get, if there's probably going to be a Disney aficionado or two out there that's going to get real mad at me for saying this. Movies like Tangled, where it's set in medieval lore and not like medieval times, the chivalry and ladies and lords and all that. They're doing 2000 teen pop music as their score. Completely took me out of the film. I was done with it at that point. I couldn't care less what they were trying to do. And when movies,
I enjoyed it.
When movies do that, it kills it for me because I don't go to a movie because I want to be reminded of the world outside of the theater I'm watching it in. I want to be sucked into it. And when you give me something that clearly doesn't match in terms of scoring, something like that can turn me off real quick.
Well, it's
Um,
like in anything that has Danny Elfman doing the score is just absolutely okay. I'm gonna watch this because I
yeah.
enjoy Danny Elfman.
And I think as far as scoring goes, there another one that kind of really benefited from it, considering it didn't have much of a soundtrack to it in terms of just it's like there's 40 tracks on it, and every one of them is a power ballad. Titanic. Titanic yeah, it was anchored by the biggest teen heartthrob to ever walk the face of the planet,
Oh, Leo.
who just happened to also turn into an upper echelon actor in his own right. We'll talk about that in a minute. But at the time, it was anchored by the fact it was Romeo and Juliet on a doomed boat with the biggest teen heartthrob in the history of the planet walking. The soundtrack and the scoring to that movie, and all you have to say is "My heart will go on." Uh, you know, in that song you couldn't get away from. But if you listen to like the vocalizations from the theme to it, because it's not the Celine Dion, it's one of the themes. There's another theme called "Hymn to the Ocean." That thing is played at just the right times
Yep.
in the movie, and it just draws you in. Just watch that movie again and see what I mean. If you got 2 hours and 40 some odd minutes to watch Titanic, listen for that vocalization, which I will not try to emulate because it would just be a disservice. But Titanic is up there for me for sure. What about you?
I'm trying to think who did the scoring for it. Was it James
James
Horner?
Horner.
Yeah,
Yes.
because he did Apollo 13. Uh, I mean, you got to look at anything that he did for any movie. If you saw James Horner composer, you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
he's one of the big ones, because there's Horner, there's Elfman, there's Williams, Zimmer.
yep.
I want to round this out with a fifth one, so I would. I'm drawing a blank here. I know there's one more that
Well,
I'm just
there
gun to
one
my
will
head
come
I'm
up.
missing, but
Um,
you anytime you have like composers like that, they understand human emotion and what they're looking for, because human emotion and music go hand in hand.
yeah,
So when you've got a Braveheart where they're just laying on those bagpipes, man, and rightfully so, because that's appropriate for the geographical area that they're portraying the film in, even though the
yeah,
tale of William Wallace that they're telling is not really true. But by the time you're at the end of that movie, you believe it's true, just because of the writing, the scoring, the acting. And it's great. Titanic is, obviously Titanic happened. Uh, Dawson and Rose did not necessarily happen, at least not that we know of. But definitely for those two movies, just for the scoring alone, and obviously Star Wars with its scoring that's up there too. But those are two I really look at as far as movies that are definitely put to another level because of the score.
yeah, and I'm sure I'm drawing a blank on some movies that have great scoring, but I was just gonna say Star Wars is the first thing that comes to mind. The two songs I'll always think of with Star Wars is The Binary Sunset and Duel of the Fates.
There's a
Yep.
video.
Oh, dude, I get chills thinking about just like
Have
hearing any
you
version of it makes me ooh,
have you
ooh.
seen that video of the guy that plays it in the stairwell?
No, you're gonna have to send me that.
I will send it to you now,
Send that to me because I will watch it as soon as we're done recording because
and
I gotta see that.
it will definitely it'll give you uh
Yeah, the goose
goosebumps.
pimples, the goose pimples.
Oh,
Yeah,
all the goose pimples.
yeah, dude. So I really that's another thing, another topic for another day is we have to do one just devoted to music itself and like our appreciation of it and like songs that immediately give you goosebumps every time you hear it, stuff like that. um
No, I'll send
uh
it to you now. and you can play it out loud for those of us at home. And so,
Oh no,
no,
we'll what we'll do is we will put in the comment section when this goes live. We'll put the link to the video.
oh, that's even better. We'll put that, like, it gives me it, like, wow, it almost feels like it belongs in the film.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I'm sitting here trying to think. Okay, so you brought up Braveheart. I'm trying to think. What's another? I feel like we should say
Well,
maybe like
let me ask you this.
our top 5 that no matter how many times we've seen it, we can continue. We could watch it.
Twister.
Oh my God.
Cow.
Dude, another cow.
Actually, I think that's the same
was
one.
the same cow. Yeah.
Man, she did not marry you for your penis. Okay, she didn't only marry you for your penis.
Food.
Food. Philip Seymour Hoffman does not get talked about enough for how great an actor he was. Oh my God, so good.
I'm glad you brought that up because I have the Blu-ray of it somewhere and I've been meaning to watch it.
Twister is great. It again, you're going way off the deep end with plausibility with some of the things they did with
I don't care
with the tornadoes, but as you just put it, I don't care. Again with the soundtrack, some of the music in that was just like, yeah.
Dude, I remember that's another one. I remember going to see that in the movie theater when it came out, and
yeah, I got the VHS, and that was great. And then obviously I bought the DVD and the Blu-ray later, but oh man, another great popcorn movie.
Oh God, so I know you're kind of jumping all over the place. I'm sticking with my top 5. I'm going to go with one of my personal favorites as a comedy, Spaceballs.
Ah, yes, the Schwartz is strong with this one.
How many assholes we got on this ship?
Yo!
Oh, I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
It's jammed, sir.
Only one person dares to give me the raspberry. No.
Lone Star.
Man, again, I don't care how many times I've seen Spaceballs, I still laugh at it.
You'll never out Pizza the Hut, bro.
God. Obviously the meta movie making fun of Star Wars, but it's just, to me, Bill Pullman was absolutely fantastic.
Great.
And John Candy, come on.
R.I.P. to one of the greatest comedic actors this world will ever know, was John Candy.
And anything that he was in, even if it was like a small cameo appearance, you're just like, I'm
he made the most of it. He made the most of it.
The best
ever.
The best small part for John Candy is the guard in Vacation. Mm-hmm. Sorry, folks, park's closed. Moose out front should have told you.
Yeah.
I just, it's anytime I've ever had to deal with like of course in security, like dealing with like, okay, this place is closed. I've got to, shoo people out or turn people away. I'm like, sorry, folks, park's closed. Moose out front should have told you. If anybody gets the joke, they'll like, oh, yeah. Yeah. But I see, I have a strong affinity for Mel Brooks movies.
Leave us alone, Mel Brooks. Which one was that in?
Blazing Saddles. No, it's not Blazing.
But they reference Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, it's Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Thank you. Yep. Yes. Oh, probably one of my favorite comedies ever. With Robin Hood
so
Men in Tights.
the reason I like
we're men in tights.
Tights. I had
the forest super fights.
I had a group of friends that went to Dragon Con one year dressed up as Men in Tights, and I was so jealous.
That sounds epic. Sounds epic.
So I like I said, I love Mel Brooks movies. I love Blazing Saddles. I to this day, the campfire scene kills me.
The night is young and you're so beautiful. And the silhouette looks like he's at full mass.
Yeah.
Impressively at full mass.
Mel Brooks in that span of like the 70s and the 80s was
untouchable.
He was untouchable. He just some of the most fantastically hilarious movies.
And some of his stuff, it wasn't like it was over the top offensive, but like he couldn't make some of those movies now. Like not all of it, but there was
you could not do 90% of Blazing Saddles today.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like Gene Wilder,
another genius of an actor.
Man, again, Young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein,
yeah. There's actually one of my more favorite Gene Wilder movies is Silver Streak, because it involves a train.
Yeah, I really.
Well, it's got Richard Pryor in it too. So
Richard Pryor. I think of when I hear the words Richard Pryor, for whatever reason, my mind goes to Eddie Murphy Raw, where he's talking about Bill Cosby chastising him for the content of his stand-up show, and he calls Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor starts going off on Bill Cosby. And just every time I hear that, I immediately think of that section of stand-up. Go, if you've not seen it, go check out Eddie Murphy and look for Eddie Murphy talking about Bill Cosby, and at the end, listen to Richard Pryor's response. That always gets a chuckle out of me. But
yeah, so that, I guess that would be number 2 for me is Spaceballs. The humor, it's that it's right after the Airplane movie came out, so you had like that over the top humor, and then Spaceballs had the humor, but it still had like a cohesive story, whereas Airplane was kind of like gag for the sake of a gag. Yeah. Because I absolutely love Airplane, because again, it's the wit of the jokes, or the timing of the jokes, and subtle things that you miss, and I love those kind of comedy movies.
I just like a comedy that's well written, but then again, I love just raunchy comedy at the same time, like Deadpool will always be able to get a smile out of me, because I love sophomore humor.
Oh, I love Deadpool. I love Deadpool too. I belly laugh. Those were movies I belly laughed at.
I think of that of the advertisement for the Christmas movie or whatever, where he's got Fred Savage tied to a bed and he's reading him the story or whatever, and it's the spoof of The Princess Bride, and Fred Savage makes a crack about Nickelback, and Deadpool just starts chastising him about why Nickelback doesn't suck, and they end up actually singing a Nickelback song at the end of it. It was kind of funny.
One of the promo things leading up to it was Deadpool is Bob Ross.
Yes, Bob Ross.
It was one of those that it was so funny, I had to take like sound clips of it and make like text tones from it. And one of the one I used was like, "Holy fuck, Knuckles, I'm high as a kite right now." Man, I laughed. I cried laughing. God. It was so fun. Ryan Reynolds, man.
Again, one of those that no other person on the face of the planet could have done Deadpool but Ryan Reynolds ever.
No.
It's
he is Deadpool. He is 100% Deadpool. And one of my nephews was watching some kind of like spy or heist movie that he's in, and like the way he's conducting himself, I'm like, this is just Deadpool without the suit.
Yeah.
Because like I cannot make the separation now of, oh, it's Ryan Reynolds. No, it's not. That's Deadpool. That's Deadpool.
He's kind of jumped headfirst into the typecast water, which, you know what?
Play to your strengths.
Yeah, like not everybody has to be this thespian, this grand thespian of an actor. Some people can just do the raunchy comedy thing, and that's their deal. And
Look at the amount of money he's made.
oh, dude, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon.
That's a step up from doing Van Wilder.
Big step up.
Big step up.
I suppose now's a good time for a guilty pleasure. What's your guilty pleasure?
I've got a couple.
Hit me with one. We can go back to the others.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you with one, and you're gonna look at me like,
that's what a guilty pleasure is, dude. Don't be fair.
Spice World.
Spice World. Okay. Why?
I absolutely love the Spice Girls.
You just love their sheer tops. Don't lie to me.
For whatever reason, when I was younger, was obsessed with the Spice Girls. As an adult, I'm like, wow, that explains a lot. Yeah, okay. No, I just absolutely love the Spice Girls. I have several Spice Girls CDs. I have all.
You know, I'm not ashamed of you for liking Spice World so much as I'm ashamed of you having Spice Girl CDs. Isn't that weird?
No, it is not.
Okay.
No,
I was just checking.
So people who know me and know the music that I like and all that stuff, they're like, "You like the Spice Girls?" I'm like, "Yep." Guilty pleasure of mine.
What grown man doesn't?
Dude. Well, the teen girls had the boy bands to look at, and we got lucky enough to have a girl band to look at.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just, you know what? I just have an affinity for 90s pop. Like from
okay.
94 to like 2000. I love like the pop music that came out in that time.
So then
sidebar.
Perfect time for not sidebar. Perfect time for another guilty pleasure of mine. 10 Things I Hate About You. Ooh. No matter what I am doing, I could be on my way out the door for a funeral. Sorry, y'all. Funeral's gonna have to wait. 10 Things is on. I gotta watch that. You know why? Because that is one of the greatest teen movies of all time, and it's still funny to me to this day.
That's
awesome. I love it.
You know what? I'll give you that one. That one's a solid guilty pleasure.
It's a great guilty pleasure. It's again perfectly cast, well acted. The soundtrack's a banger, and I have a thing for David Krumholtz. I just think that he's just funny. He's a great actor that doesn't get enough credit. And yeah, and then I imagine my surprise. I saw that before I saw Santa Claus, so I popped when I saw David Krumholtz coming on as Bernard. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, oh man. I don't think I've seen that movie in well over 15 years.
Blu-ray, brother. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna have to like make a notepad of like the movies I need to go back and watch to see what still holds up in my mind.
I love it. Oh god. That and it's not 90s per se, but it's got a lot of 90s spirit to it. In fact, it's got a lot of spirit. It's got spirit fingers even.
Oh.
I am a big mark, not for the series, but for the singular first Bring It On movie. Boy, howdy, do I love that movie because it was making fun of cheerleaders while kind of taking cheerleading seriously, but also kind of self-aware of how absurd the whole thing was. And it has Eliza Dushku in it and as we all know, she is like, Lord, forgive me for I have impure thoughts right now. I admit it.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. That is,
I love the banter. I love the snarkiness. It just they're taking the piss out of cheerleading. I'm sorry to anybody that was a cheerleader in their former life, or as a cheer mom or brother or sister, or whatever. It's fun for me to make fun of cheerleaders. It is. I'm sorry, I can't help it. We all have our thing that we just, dogs have to chase cars or mailmen. I have to make fun of cheerleaders. It's just what I do. Forgive me.
That's fair.
But yeah, those two are definitely probably my top two guilty pleasure movies.
Yeah, you know what? Those are fair. They wouldn't be in mine, but that's definitely solid ones.
Can I squeeze one more in, though, that is
ahead.
90s? Everybody shits on it, says it's a terrible movie. Hollywood says it's a terrible movie. Most of the people involved in it probably said it was a terrible movie, but I love Waterworld.
Ooh.
Can't explain it. I just love it. Kevin Costner's an absolute dick in that movie, and it's wonderful. Oh, this is why it's a guilty pleasure, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's all you. I can't.
That's all me, baby.
If anybody cared, even remotely liked Waterworld, just leave a little comment like, hey, I like Waterworld.
Throw it down there, bro. Stand with me in the land of the free, where
how can
we
you
can
stand
like
when
Waterworld.
How can you stand? Because there's nothing but water.
They got boats. Yeah. They spend like 60% of the movie on that weird freaking parasail boat.
I know they do.
So he can stand with me on the boat. On the big freaking boat.
Okay, the world.
No, that was Titanic. It's the other movie. Although, side note, the captain from Titanic is in that movie. Yeah, small world. So is Jack Black, by the way. Young Jack Black. Young Jack Black is in that movie. He's one of the henchmen. Yeah, he's in there. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And Dennis Hopper just chews up the scenes. But
that's another very underrated actor. Like whenever he's committed to a role, he's on.
He's on it, bro.
You know what? All right. So we're gonna talk about a guilty pleasure of mine that has Dennis Hopper in it.
What's that?
I want to see if you can guess. It's a terrible movie, but Dennis Hopper is in it.
Is it Crow 3?
No.
No.
I'll give you one more guess. It's came out in the late 80s, very early 90s.
I'm drawing a blank, dude. You're gonna have to help me out on this one.
Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh yeah, he was Bowser.
Yup.
I forgot all about that. You want to talk about a god awful movie? That definitely is up there as one of the worst freaking movies
might have
I've ever
been
seen.
I think that's what killed Bob Hoskins' career. He didn't do a whole lot after that.
I'm not going to call you wrong. I need to look at something real quick, though, because I'm wanting to Super Mario. That was 90. Oh, damn, that was 93?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was like early 90s. Because that came out after Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, it did. Oh, damn. I was hoping that Hook was after it, because that's another one of my favorite movies is Hook. I will always go to bat for Hook.
I remember watching it. I don't remember it being a movie I wanted to see multiple times.
One of my favorite movies, hands down, because I've got a lot of time for Robin Williams. I had a lot of time for Dustin Hoffman. I could take or leave Julia Roberts, obviously, but I just loved that movie. I loved the concept. And hey, a small cameo for Jimmy Buffett, by the way, plays one of the pirates when Robin Williams gets back to Neverland. He's in there, which Arr!
All right, so you squeezed in 3 guilty pleasures. I'll give you one more. And oh, sorry. I'm not sure if you've even seen it. It's a Harlan Williams movie that came out in 97 called Rocket Man.
Rocket Man. I feel like I feel like I saw it.
It is again, it's a movie that I saw in the movie theater because I saw the commercial for it and begged my mom to take me. And it's basically he's a computer programmer for NASA that somehow accidentally gets his way onto the Mars mission, and then hijinks ensue, and there's a monkey involved. And
it's always funny with a monkey.
I'm trying to remember the name of the actor that plays the main astronaut, Wild Bill Overback.
William Sadler.
Thank you, William Sadler, because he
Because I'm
is
looking at the
so
IMDb right now.
yeah. Video game thing. He is the voice of Victor in Fallout New Vegas.
Nice.
So I was like, oh man, I love that. But yeah, Harlan Williams, just he's over the top with his comedy, and it's exactly what it's supposed to be. But my God, the fart scene in the spacesuit is just so funny.
What do you do in a spacesuit if you got a fart? Exactly what you'd think.
Yeah, no, it is one of those, like, to this day I still laugh. Farts will always be funny. I'm a kid at heart. Farts will always be funny to me, and farting in a spacesuit, like the whole premise is like, I think his oxygen pack got messed up or something, and he's connected to the other astronaut, and the Harlan Williams character farts, and then you see this comical, like, bubble of fart moving down the air hose. Like, no, don't you do that, trying to like force it back, and then it's hilarious.
Man.
And I've noticed there's a couple of these movies that we've talked about, and I hate myself that I can't remember his name, but he plays Dale on The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
he's in Green Mile. He's in
the movie I was actually trying to figure out a segue into after you said William Sadler.
He's in Rocket Man as well. Oh yes, he is in Shawshank. Dude,
he's the lawyer. He's the prosecutor in Shawshank. And
that's another movie that does
again another Stephen King book, which honestly it's like a little 5-paragraph or something like that. It's a short story that they turned into the movie you see. It's another case kind of like Forrest Gump, where the movie was actually better than the book. Like, side note, Forrest Gump was low-key kind of racist. The book, not the movie.
Yeah.
The movie was fine. Jenny is the worst character in the history of villains, by the way. We'll get to Forrest Gump in a minute.
I was going to bring that up with the soundtrack, because the opening sequence where you hear the piano, the little piano keys, and you see the feather floating, it like that sets the tone. And I'm seeing this mouse. Is that mine? Yeah, it's mine.
But Shawshank, because Morgan Freeman is amazing in everything he does. Tim Robbins, obviously, his counterpart in the movie, and that's another one of those where, again, if I'm on my way to a funeral, it's going to have to wait a few hours because Shawshank is on. Definitely, probably one of the better movies to come out of the 90s, and definitely I'd probably put it in my top 10, top 15.
I could say that. I would say probably, I haven't seen it in 15 years, but
what are you doing, brother? Go watch it. It's good for a watch every so often.
I know. I kind of hate myself because it's like, man, I know it's a good movie.
I'm disappointed in it because, like I said, the book's only like 5 paragraphs or a couple pages. It's not big. Most of the narration that Morgan Freeman does, that's pretty much the book. Everything that happens scene-wise is just kind of made up by some guy in Hollywood with a typewriter. It's not in the book. Or, like the things that happen.
Creative license.
Yes. Well, it's in the book, but there's not a ton of dialogue. There's not enough for a 2-hour movie. But there's that. But then, as we said, Forrest Gump, which probably it was so ingenious for how they kind of spliced some stuff, Tom Hanks, into some of the old footage. Obviously the desegregation of the colleges and meeting the president and things like that. Like, it was very.
I had like 12 Dr. Peppers.
And like you go back and you watch it, and the CG still holds up.
It really does,
which is amazing, because you watch CG movies even from like 10 years ago, and boy, but for some reason, I don't know if maybe it's just because it was so quick you'll miss it kind of stuff that they were doing back then, but like a lot of it just kind of it still holds up. Jurassic Park, the first one, is the same way. Another
Absolutely.
favorite of mine. Uh,
Uh, I have a soft spot in my heart for practical effects because
yeah,
I like building models and replicas and stuff like that. It's a lost art form with movies. And if a movie uses practical effects, I'm more likely to enjoy it because I know like a whole bunch of dudes worked really hard to build that really cool prop.
that's kind of why I got excited when Episode 7 happened for Star Wars, because they went out of their way to tell you about all the practical effects that they were
Yep.
bringing back, and it
Um,
showed. And I remember feeling so strongly about 7, and we've talked about this in other episodes. Obviously 8 and 9 happened, and no practical effects was going to save that, but specifically 7 was solid because I believed that the whatever that the actor was reacting off of was actually in the scene with them, because it actually was.
um, the Blade Runner that had oh god, what's Ryan Gosling. They used practical
He was a
effects in that movie.
liability at corner, by the way, and Remember the Titans. An
Yeah.
absolute liability.
uh, but that was something that had me excited about watching the Blade Runner movie, the recent one, was the fact that they used practical effects. It's something about seeing the physical prop and knowing that it's a physical prop, not a CGI thing. It's just I always like models. I always like the miniatures.
Yeah, and miniatures will always have a place, I believe, in filmmaking, even well past the dawn of CGI being the thing that Hollywood leans on. You
Yep.
can never, ever, ever surpass the authenticity of a miniature over a CGI. Never.
Oh, yeah.
Um, it kind of falls in a guilty pleasure, but it fits the CGI versus practical. Independence Day, Will Smith.
Yes.
Because
Don't even have to argue anything on that.
yeah,
Just Independence Day.
I enjoyed that. Plausibility factor, probably not gonna be able to upload a virus without a line of some sort on
Just
an old. But I digress. They used the
I was
models.
supposed to be at a barbecue today.
Yeah, what the hell is that smell? But like they used they did a miniature White House that's actually exploding right in front of your eyes, and
I
yeah,
found out the scene where the ship is breaking through the atmosphere and you see the clouds rolling. Apparently, what they did is they filmed a tank of water and poured milk in it, and
yeah.
the milk rolling. That's what made that.
And that's
Like,
so
oh my
fascinating
god!
when you go and you like watch little featurettes on like DVDs and stuff, and they'll do like the making of, and
Yeah,
you learn some of the tricks that they do. It's like,
I'm such a nerd
oh wow,
for like like when a movie or when it's like, oh, what's a special feature? 2 hours showing how we made the movie. Yes, I'll watch this.
yeah.
I
And,
love it.
that reminds me of Jurassic Park. They did the making of, and they're talking about some of the vocalizations they made for the dinosaurs. They're talking about how like this guy's like little chihuahua or something. They just down pitched his voice, and it was one of the dinosaurs. And I was like, oh, that's neat. You know, dolphins, and a dolphin is a velociraptor. The thing that's
Yeah.
eating people left and right. No, it's a dolphin. But just things like that where you take these everyday sounds that you might not think of otherwise. These guys just put a microphone up to it and they just start pitching it and throwing it into movies, and suddenly,
Man, that's a whole other topic of
yeah.
like the sound effects of Star Wars is
Which I was thinking just about that as you said that, but definitely up there. And it keeps flashing in my head. I don't want to like just like jar into it, but I will be disowned by pretty much everybody in my family that ever watches this episode if I don't jump out in front of it and say it, that The Princess Bride is probably a top 3 movie for me. I love
I
The
didn't care
Princess
for
Bride.
it.
So this is a good episode. I want to thank everybody for watching and have a pleasant evening. And we're done. No, screw you. You do not get to segue out of that. You are not getting off the chain. The Princess Bride is the greatest freaking practical movie to come out of the 80s, hands down, in my opinion.
I didn't care
But
for it.
It was a great book. It was a great movie. Andre the Giant was amazing as Fezzik.
There was a great cast. I didn't care for it.
Well, you know,
Mandy Patinkin was amazing. Um, Carrie Yules, I just man, I love almost everything he's in. I just for whatever reason could not get behind it.
well, you know, you also like Spice Girls, so that there is something to be said for taste. But The Princess Bride is an amazing story, and it's well, okay, amazing. It's basic. It's a basic story where again everything just kind of is put out there in front of you, and it's got everything as it advertises, and
Okay.
it delivers.
All
And
right.
Peter Falk as the grandfather is always going to be one of the most tender, warm-hearted things you'll ever see.
All right. I'm gonna toss out another guilty pleasure, and I mean it can rank up there in guilty pleasures, but it's still a good movie. Stand by Me.
Stand by Me. Oh yeah, yeah. Want to see a dead body?
You want to see a dead body? I just it, Jerry O'Connell is in that. Uh, young Kiefer Sutherland is in it. River Phoenix. Just man, it's such a good movie, and I have a fascination with like 40s and 50s and 60s pop culture with like the music and like the cars and the way the architecture, like things of that era, and it's perfect of them walking down the train tracks with little transistor radio.
You
Just
know, I'm thinking
man,
of the Family Guy episode, right?
yep.
Yep.
I
What an oddly clustered train schedule.
oh man, uh, yeah, that's another one. Is like anytime I bring up Stand By Me, there's a lot of people like, oh, I've never seen that, or I didn't care for that one. It's a good movie. Again, it's a Stephen King. Yeah.
Another train.
We seem to be also on a theme of Stephen King.
Bro, you know, he gets kind of this weird macabre kind of like stamp on him, which is fair. Some of his stuff is really off the X-Files deep end, but
Hang on.
his
If we're
good
going to
stuff
talk
is
about
great.
if we're going to talk about off the deep end, the made for TV movie, the two-parter of
I refuse.
Langoliers.
Oh, I thought you were getting ready to say It. I was going to shut this down now. I hate It.
Nope.
Can't stand
Langoliers.
It, except for Tim Curry. But Langoliers, yeah, go on.
I just I remember watching that when I was a kid and being terrified because these creepy meatball things with like chainsaw teeth, and then I watched it again as an adult and I'm like, oh my god, this is horrible. The CG, oh, it's so bad. uh
Yeah.
because David Morris is in it. He's the pilot. He's in Green Mile.
Yep.
He,
Brutal.
yeah, he's in all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, he's another one of those. Hey, oh, hey, that guy's. And he's that guy.
Because I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, what's another?
So you mentioned your 40s, 50s, and 60s, things like that. There's a movie that came out in the 90s that, when I talk about movies to people, it's one that kind of gets a lot of head tilt. I'm going to run it by you because I feel like if anybody watched and appreciated it, it would be you. Sleepers.
Okay.
Yeah. One that doesn't get talked about, and the story of that movie is kind of not for probably public consumption, but it's another one of those like dual era movies where the 1960s, but it's also the 1990s. Four boys are sent to a juvenile detention facility, and the guard is played by our old buddy Kevin Bacon, and he sexually assaults these boys. And years later, a couple of them run into him at a diner, and they express themselves to him and how that made them feel. And a trial is done about that. And one of the boys' mentors was a Catholic priest, which, stop the jokes now. I can already hear the snickering considering what we're talking about. But played by Robert De Niro. And it's one of those movies that doesn't really get talked about a lot, but I think it's a really good movie. It's a good suspense movie that definitely doesn't get the prestige that I think it deserves. I think it was just a little ahead of its time. I think if you dropped it now, probably gets a better following.
Yeah, that's why I had to sit here and think. Sleepers, like, I knew the name, and when you started telling me the plot, I was like, yeah, I've seen it maybe once, but I knew what you were talking about.
It's funny.
It's one of those where it goes back and forth.
Yeah, you know, the detention stuff happens in the 60s because there's a lot of 60s doo-wop and things like that going on, and as the score, and then you cut to the 90s, and it's a very, like, cinematography wise, you can tell immediately what era you're in, because the 60s is bright and sunny and you know, and then you cut to the 90s, it's kind of dark, it's gritty, they use different lenses and color schemes and tones, and it's a very interesting cinematography lesson. But that is definitely one slightly funny story. I remember buying it multiple times from Walmart because every copy I bought kept having scratches on it fresh out of the box.
Wow.
Strange story. Yeah. I just, it'll probably be one, oh, pardon me, that I throw on every once in a great while, though, because I love it. But speaking of old
I was gonna say, I'm gonna go ahead and hit you with one of my other top tier classics that I feel like my friend base and a lot of people that I associate with, I don't really have a good appreciation for this movie. I'm not sure if you would too, but it would be Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Nope, haven't seen it.
It's a Stanley Kubrick movie. It came out in 1964, and
I do like A Clockwork Orange.
Then you would appreciate Dr. Strangelove because it's a dark humor movie, and it is the very first movie that James Earl Jones appears in.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, now you've got my interest peaked, because obviously, as we've discussed multiple times, James Earl Jones is a treasured human being to me. I've never not enjoyed seeing him on my screen.
For me, with Dr. Strangelove, it is Slim Pickens as Major Kong, and the iconic scene of him riding the nuke as it drops out of the belly of the B-52, and he's swinging his cowboy hat.
Yeehaw, boys!
Anybody that has seen that movie will know and appreciate just the subtleties of how good it is. So it is in my top 5.
Probably my earliest favorite movie has to be, without a doubt, probably one of the greatest independent films of our lifetime. It's about 4 brothers banding together to go find their father, who's been kidnapped by a crime lord that is running a criminal organization comprised of a lot of child labor. And I just did a really dramatic way of pumping up the storyline of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. Did you pick up where I was at with it, or were you kind of confused what I was doing?
I was sitting here, I'm like, hang on, where's he going with this? Oh man.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Speaking of great soundtrack movies, the Ninja Turtles movie was so perfect for its era. It had a lot of the 80s and 90s rap thing going and techno rock and things like that. And it was great. The rubber suits I loved them. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie has to be talked about on this episode.
That's, you know what, I'll definitely give you that one. I was not a huge Turtles fan, but I did love the movie. I loved the movie though.
On a half shell, they're the heroes for. In this day and age, who could ask for more? The crime wave is high with muggings mysterious. All police and detectives are furious because they can't find the source of this lethally evil force. That's right, I'm doing Partners in Crime. I'm doing the Turtle Power rap.
Man.
Oh, dude, I played that thing until the film snapped in my VCR.
I think we got lucky, being kids in the 90s, because we got some absolute banger movies.
We
do not hold up today.
Oh, I will still put the Turtles up there. I don't give a crap. That is a great movie, and I can't wait to show my children that movie. All right, great movie. I will keep that sucker in rotation until the day I die. My last words in life may very well be "Cowabunga." You know, that's right. I made a funny, you know. But man, you're right. We had some really good movies to go against the backdrop of our lives.
And you got to think, like, there were some movies that, I mean, they're obviously geared towards kids in the 90s. But then you go back and watch it as an adult, and you're like, "Oh,
they
man,
slip some stuff in for us later in life."
Jingle All the Way, which has an appearance by the giant Big Show.
Yeah.
I just remember
Paul White.
I just remember Sinbad being
a dick.
The bad guy. Yeah.
Another little quick kind of a side category here as we're kind of winding down the episode. Let's go with this. What was a movie that had an actor where the actor changed your entire perception of them based on just how they did in that movie?
That's one I actually really have to sit here and think about.
Like, you know, Blood Diamond, I'm going to use an example because it's not the one I want to talk about, but Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio, that is where, to me, he shed the teen heartthrob label that he had been carrying. That one is probably a good example of what I mean when I say just completely change the overall persona.
I've got one for you. Uncut Gems.
Okay. And who's
Adam Sandler playing the slime bag.
Ooh.
Right? It was so
I haven't seen it, but I'm intrigued because Adam Sandler is usually one note, and it's a great note, but still.
Watch him in this movie. You despise him, even though he's like the focal point of the movie. You're just like, this guy is a slimy piece of shit.
I'll tell you what, I was so proud of him in Click because he found a way to make me cry. By the end of that movie, I was crying because one, he broke the Fonz's heart right there in front of you, and he freezes it. And it, oh my God, I was like, Adam Sandler is drawing emotion out of me that doesn't have to do anything with sophomoric humor.
I'll bring one up because you mentioned how much you have an affinity for this actor. 1 Hour Photo, Robin Williams.
Yeah, where he plays the creepy bad guy. He's watching these people through their photos. And I feel like, I remember vividly, I feel like I know them. I feel like they're my own, you know. I was like,
yeah, those are two that stand out.
I have to give a nod to Dead Poets Society, by the way, because that
man. That movie.
Gather ye rosebuds while you may. Carpe diem, boys. Seize the day. Make your lives extraordinary.
Man, that was a...
again, like, everybody loves it, but it doesn't get talked about enough.
What?
It's Dead Poets.
Here's another... We're going to have to, like, pick Actors Week. and I feel like, okay, we've got Tom Hanks, we've got to do one on Robin Williams.
Definitely.
I because there's so
Yes.
many Robin Williams movies I can think of that he was great.
Look,
Lover.
I have to do it, and I'm giving a heads up now for people that are listening on earbuds or speakers. You might want to turn it down now, but good morning, Vietnam!
Absolute classic.
Yes.
Absolute classic.
Yes, I have to. I'm sorry for those of you that had to endure that didn't take my warning, but you can't just say good morning Vietnam.
No, you
have
cannot.
to deliver that.
Yep.
But
That's what I said. We could do a whole episode talking about just all the great things Robin Williams did.
Oh, dude, Robin Williams is probably one of the most intriguing actors of film, but that is definitely one we'll have to do. For me, the actor in the movie that just really I was gobsmacked by the end of it. The Guardian, Ashton Kutcher.
Okay.
You want to talk about night and day as opposed to this guy was typecast as like he was Eric Kelso. He was the stoner pretty boy dopey dork guy, right?
Yeah.
And then he did The Guardian, which if you have not seen The Guardian, it is about the Coast Guard. Kevin Costner is in it. He plays the grizzled veteran that he's working through some stuff. His entire crew gets wiped out by a rogue wave while he's out doing a rescue mission. So they send him to be an instructor at the school where you go to become a Coast Guard rescue operator. And the character Ashton Kutcher's character is in his class, and he's the big swimming star, and he's got a mysterious backstory. And Ashton in that movie, in the span of an hour and some change, completely changed my entire perception of him in one role. And
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
I am always going to go to that for The Guardian with Kevin Costner.
You know what?
Around 0506. Go check it out.
I'm gonna give you another guilty pleasure in a minute, but I just had, when you were bringing that up, you're talking about the storm stuff. There's a movie that I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough because it's based on a real event, The Perfect Storm.
Perfect Storm with George Clooney.
Mark Wahlberg, John C. Reilly is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it was such a good movie, and it's so heart-wrenching at the end because it's like, to this day they have never found the wreck.
The ocean holds a lot of secrets.
There was a documentary series. They all got uploaded to YouTube, and it's called Sea Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Clive Cussler, the guy who does all like the
I got a bunch of his books.
Yeah, it was basically like him and his search team that would go looking for these missing shipwrecks. Like he's the one that found the Carpathia, and he's the one that found some of the lost battleships and stuff. And he went looking, and they had some probable targets that they thought could have been the ship, but they just couldn't. The weather didn't cooperate and stuff like that. So he was one of the people that was actively trying to find the ship. But it was such a good movie.
That's one of those. I feel like,
George Clooney though, he's one of those versatile
again
actors.
One note, but however, I do love me some Ocean's movies. I don't care if it's 11, if it's 12, or if it's the one that nobody likes to talk about, and that's 13. Again, I don't care if I'm on my way to my own mother's funeral. She's gonna have to wait. I love those movies. I love the cat and mouse reveal that kind of does, because they do that pretty well. And then Now You See Me did it pretty well too. I liked that movie. It's not in my tops, but definitely.
I'm gonna put another one in, like, I would say my top 10, and we haven't discussed it. I feel real bad that I haven't discussed it. Is the Back to the Future series.
Great Scott!
I just, man, those are
You
movies that
again,
I will go out of my way to watch Back to the Future.
the effects in that, and I love the way that they dance around the timelines. You know, obviously the first movie and then the second movie, they're dancing around that first movie and how they did. And I'm like, wow, that is really good editing.
So they actually shot 2 and 3 at the same time. So yeah. And I hate to say it, 3 was my favorite because it was a Western and it had a train in it. So,
Well, you know, trains, planes, automobiles, the works.
great movie.
Great, yeah, but yeah, Back to the Future, it's probably not one of my favorite. It's not that I have a problem with it. It's just I didn't have a connection to it so much as a kid. Now I watch
I
them,
loved it.
I appreciate them more, but it just I for whatever reason there's a disconnect on my end to them. I didn't hate them. It's just they weren't my particular favorite. I liked them, but they weren't like my favorite.
Yeah, I mean that's completely understandable.
Oh, I feel like
I feel like you should drop one more solid one,
a solid and a guilty,
and then I'll drop a guilty.
So for a solid, a solid, and this is more serious because true story and a great book if you can get your hands on. We Were Soldiers.
Ooh.
If you've read,
excellent choice.
Thank you, sir.
Sam Elliott was fantastic in that.
Any you sons of bitches calls me grandpa. You know.
Oh, I love the scene. Good morning, sir. What's so good
about it? Yep. Oh, dude, such a good movie. And the book is so good too.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up because that's one I definitely need to go back and watch.
Tom Hanks. Wow, forgive me. Mel Gibson as Lieutenant Colonel Halmore is probably my favorite Mel Gibson performance. And yes, I'm saying that after telling you how much I love Lethal Weapon. But you know what? Yes, I actually thought about The Patriot, but that one kind of gets a little gratuitous. Well, not like gratuitous, but like it. One of the criticisms of that movie is very fair. It became a one-man war. This man's the reason why we won the revolution, which, you know, is kind of fair to an extent. Mel Gibson's character, you know, kind of becomes the reason they win the war. And it's just kind of, all right, you know, but I will always love The Patriot, though, because, again, I have to sidebar Heath Ledger, because I remember, and we're going to come back to We Were Soldiers, but I have to tell this story. I remember sitting at my computer and reading the news presser that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker in The Dark Knight. And the words were coming out of my mouth that he can't do what Jack Nicholson did in 1980. There's no way. He can't do that. And I remember saying that. And then I went and saw the movie. And I walked out. And I said it to her. I said it to my girlfriend. I said, there's no way he could do what Jack Nicholson did. But after watching that, there's no way Jack Nicholson could have did what he did.
No.
And that scene, that movie right there completely changed. Because I love me some Heath Ledger, but again, C-Teen Heartthrob. He was kind of doing the pretty boy thing. I'm being blunt with you. You know, like how they'll say, you know, so-and-so is going to play this role, and no matter what makeup they do, what wig they put on, you see him. You know, you see Joe Snuffy, the actor. I didn't see Heath Ledger in that. I could not identify that was Heath Ledger in the makeup. Just the way he moved, the way he talked, it didn't look like Heath Ledger in makeup. I forgot that was Heath Ledger, and I think Michael Caine said that too. That he was terrifying. There's like a scene where he forgot his lines because he just so enthralled. But again, yeah, Heath Ledger and breaking the mold. But back to We Were Soldiers. Um, Another ensemble cast. There's a lot of people in that movie, and some of them
Yeah.
just kind of have bit roles in it. But like that story of the first conflict of American soldiers in Vietnam, and the story of Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore and what he was going through, and it's definitely better explained in the book if you ever get a chance to pick it up and read it. I remember I think I was in Germany, and I needed some reading material just for the down hours, and I was the going through the shop at there, and they had that book, and I was like, oh. And that was my reading material for the plane ride home. And just reading that, then watching the movie, and in just putting it up to the book, putting the book up to the screen, it was very, very well done and very respectful to the legacy and very good. That's definitely one of my solids. Is
Yeah.
We Were Soldiers,
I
and
will
Young too.
back that one. I will back that one 100%. Just because I mean I have a weird fascination with war movies, but that's one that doesn't get brought up in discussion a whole lot because I think people forget that movie exists.
And I think also, like, and not to be, this is not meant to sound disrespectful to Vietnam veterans. Please don't take it that way. Vietnam is not something that a lot of people want to talk about even to this day. There
Nope.
was a stigma
100%.
about it then, and it's gotten a little better lately, but Vietnam is just not one of those that people wanted to talk about. And I
It,
and
it's understandable. Like my dad did not talk about hardly
yeah,
anything.
and
So it's
it's just one of those very touchy subjects. It's that war Vietnam War is all things to all people.
yeah,
One person is a triumph, another person is a tragedy. It's a police action, it's a war, it's a this, it's a that. It depends on who you talk to, and they all have one thing in common. Man, I hope we never see that again, because just just everything that went into that, and the depths that the human being can go to find ways to destroy another's life is shocking, and it's very prevalent in the Vietnam War.
yeah.
But yeah, for that reason, I think there's a lot of reasons why people just kind of shy away from.
Well,
Everybody's willing to talk about World War II.
see. I
You
feel
know,
like there's a reason why there's not any movies made about Vietnam. They always make them about World War II or World War One
well,
or
World
something
War
else.
II had the benefit of being kind of glamorized. It was still getting the propaganda put out in the theaters. You started seeing reporters on the front line saying, "Hey, hold on a second. What you're seeing in the theaters 20, 30 years ago is not what's happening here.
Yeah,
Completely, you're not being told everything, and
yeah,
for better or worse. Obviously, not everybody even then was telling the truth of what happened there, but they were one thing is for certain, they were two different types of wars. But the World War II had a clear cut agenda to it, and that was the eradication of a tyrant and his forces. Vietnam, the line got a little blurred of what was going on there. But yeah, World War II kind of will always be more glamorized because of the backdrop around it.
yeah, and that's completely understandable. Um, all right, well let's end on a
What's
happier
your
note.
guilty? What's your guilty? And then I'll get to mine.
Like I said, I've got several, but one that I like not for the movie itself, but just for the actress that's in it, Bedazzled
Okay.
with Elizabeth Hurley. Just
Elizabeth Hurley.
Elizabeth Hurley. That's all I have to say.
Austin Powers.
Oh God, dude, I love the Austin Powers. Like those also will stand in my guilty pleasures. I don't care what anybody says. I love Austin Powers.
And that's very groovy, baby. You know. Uh-oh. I think I lost him. Jesse. Ladies and gentlemen, we have lost Jesse Fields, and it's a terrible tragedy. There we go. There we go. We lost you there for a minute.
No, as I was saying, like, I will stand by this. The second Austin Powers is the best one, bar none.
For me, I don't know that I would necessarily call it a guilty pleasure, but I am always down to watch Major League and Major League 2 just for Bob Uecker. Just a bit outside. You know, those movies are probably favorites of mine.
Charlie Sheen, he had such a strange 90s because he was in like dramatic movies, then he turns around, he's in the Hot Shots movies, which
when you compare that to his brother, who also had an interesting 90s, and I'm bringing that up because Mighty Ducks is dropping here in about 20 some odd days, and
I could also throw back too.
Actually, that's going to be my guilty pleasure. I'm going to go with Mighty Ducks 2.
Can't hate that.
Or the Mighty Ducks as a whole.
Because I was going to say, like, you got to throw back to if you want to talk about Emilio Estevez in very bad movies, a Stephen King one, Maximum Overdrive. Man. The best thing about that movie was the soundtrack, because it was all AC/DC.
Well, okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that. I'm not an AC/DC guy, simply because, like, when you first start to play guitar, there's always that group of kids that just think they're hot shit, and all they play is AC/DC. And it drives me nuts.
I was one of those kids.
I know. I called you out for having the SG the other day. You pulled out your SG. And
no.
I refuse to own one just because of that. Of that.
My second guitar was an SG for AC/DC. The SG that I own is a Pete Townsend SG.
Well,
big difference.
Right. But, like, yeah. Shit, I said Emilio Estevez, and I want to start talking about Young Guns. But
wow, yes,
I love that. That's kind of been a TikTok meme. Charlie Crawford's not with you anymore.
What was it? He put all the dimes in the gun and shot a guy. I was like, that's the best $150 I ever spent.
You know what? We may have to do a watch along of Young Guns, because, again, ensemble cast. I do love me some Young Guns and Emilio Estevez. But yeah, Mighty Ducks, dude. You want to talk about a force to be reckoned with in the early 90s, mid 90s? It was
Flying V.
Quack, quack, quack. The Mighty Ducks.
Dude,
and to this day, I will never understand why Bombay put in a cold goaltender in the shootout of the championship game against the leading scorer in the tournament. That you want to talk about a freaking goof that paid off. Gordon Bombay putting Julie the Cat Gaffney in for Greg Goldberg against Gunnar Stahl is ludicrous. Ludicrous. Okay, I may have taken these movies a little too seriously, but come on, dude.
We're hockey fans.
Fans. And to this day, if I ever get a chance, I am going to get a Charlie Conway Mighty Ducks jersey. Like, if they ever open that up to where I can get, like, the replica through, like, the NHL.com, I'm going to get one of I'm going to get a Charlie Conway, and then I'm going to get my own, an 80s, my birth year in 87. With my name on the back, because, dude, Mighty Ducks was like the only reason people were watching hockey in the 90s. It felt like was because of them.
That's fair, yeah.
But Mighty Ducks, man.
I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of more movies. I'm like, yeah, we need to wrap this up, or else this is going to be a 4-hour episode.
We can always come back to that some other time. But yeah, like I said at the start of this show, this show, and I'm talking about Pop Goes the Zebra as a whole. As we said before, this is, yes, we have a wrestling platform. Yes, this is a wrestling podcast, but this is not necessarily a podcast about wrestling. We do this. The goal when we kind of came up with this, at least from my end, was give the boys and girls, the good brothers and sisters going to shows, stuff to listen to in the car, something different, something to make you laugh, something to make you think a different way. There's no real clear-cut point to this. We're not trying to endear ourselves to promoters, because we're the stars of this show, or that's not what we're doing here.
No, what we're doing,
This is for you, the listener.
no, this is the conversations that you'll have with the people in the car on like the 5 and 6 hour road trips. You're like, okay, go ahead and name like your guilty pleasure movie, and like the whole car starts going around and they'll start busting your balls on like, oh, you
Exactly.
like that. See, that's the way I view this podcast, is us talking about stuff that we would on road trips. Like the trip that I was on this weekend, we didn't talk wrestling a whole lot. We talked music, we talked video game stuff, we talked just random BS. And that's, it's fun getting the wrestling personalities to talk about non-wrestling stuff. And that's because we're all pop culture nerds.
Yeah.
In this day and age,
Whether we like it or not.
yeah, whether you like it or not, you are a pop culture nerd. If you like Marvel movies, or you play Call of Duty, or you collect pop vinyls, this generation's Beanie Babies.
Oh, dude, let's not even open that can of worms up, because there are still people that will fight for the last Beanie Baby.
I
Even
remember
at like yard sales, if there's Beanie Babies out there, you could possibly see a fist fight.
I remember going with my grandmother to like Beanie Baby swap meets in like 1998.
Yep.
And getting the Princess Diana bear.
The candle burned out long before the legend ever did.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I can make this a quick little sidebar. I remember being up watching, there was a show that aired on ABC in like 97 called The Cape.
Mm-hmm.
It was about astronauts. Corbin Bernstein was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would always air at 12:01. I forget, it was like on Thursday or Friday nights, and my mom would let me stay up and watch it. And I remember tuning in one night, and it was breaking news, and it was Princess Diana.
Wow.
Had died. I watched live as a kid the news coverage, because I was like, oh no, I can't watch my space show. And then the next day at school, they were talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I was awake watching and I saw this happen.
Yeah.
So it's like a random world event that I witnessed as a kid by complete accident.
Yeah, man. You never know when those like historic moments are going to happen. It seems like lately, though, they've been happening more and more. But I think that we've definitely covered a lot of really good movies, a lot of really good, not so good movies. We just
scraped the surface there.
Yeah, there is more to this carcass that we can definitely pick off, but I think now is a good time to kind of call it here. But definitely enjoyed this one. I cannot wait till we circle back to it again. But I'm really looking forward to the stuff that is coming down the line. Obviously, we've
got some great ideas coming up. I cannot wait to do some of the episodes, because I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have my drinky drinks ready,
dude. We're gonna do our favorite themes, but like I said, we have to have liquor in us, because that's a conversation that just you got to have some fun with that. You can't do it straight laced. And I am Joe Professional Podcast, and I'm trying to, now we're gonna kind of set the scene. We're at a bar, we got our little basket of peanuts, and we're throwing the shells over our shoulder, and we're talking about our favorite bangers. That'll come in the coming weeks.
Do not tempt me, because I will go get me a bag of peanuts and I'll sit here and just be munching on them.
I'm a chips and salsa guy by trade, but definitely look forward to that. And as we keep talking about Apollo 13 and the Titanic,
plus we'll have guests, and we will actually talk about wrestling.
Yeah, we're working on that right now. We cannot confirm anything yet, but we're definitely gonna get some bangers for you. We had a good time. Our first guest, Steve Tortorello at Warrior. Keep an eye out from those guys. supposedly they've got some news for us in the coming week.
Wink,
You might
wink,
want
nudge,
to
nudge.
yeah, wink, wink, and a nudge, nudge. You might want to pay attention to what's going on there. Steve and Eric might be up to something. But with that being said, Jesse, any parting comments?
Do not add to the population. Do not subtract from the population. Don't be the reason why we have a safety briefing in the morning.
Attaboy. I love that. So with that being said, go back and watch all of our episodes. Drop a like on this one and a subscribe if you liked it. And with that being said, we want to wish you all a good night and have a pleasant evening.
Pleasant evening.